video set up here, and I'm here to introduce Kathy Ilka. Yes, Ilka. It's hard to tell with that. I was told the same
I've dealt with
thing.
her for 31 years.
Actually, I asked Kathy to speak. They asked me if I wanted to see anyone. I asked for her because I coach against her, but not anymore. We're moving up.
Yeah,
We're moving up to the AAA. We're double still, but I've observed her for the last decades, and she's always got somebody in the mix to go to state. And when you got somebody in the mix to go to state all the time, you must know what you're doing more than others. You make it look easy. And one of the reasons why I think she makes it look easy is because she brings this container and it's full of everything you need. Very organized, right?
you have to have your bags of goodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Treats and everything.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So,
Coolers. We jump for gum, so there's gum. If you make a PR, you get a pack of gum. So, yeah.
motivator, everything. So, I'm really excited to introduce her to the coaches. And looking forward
Thank
to
you,
learn
Matt.
something new, right?
Thank you, yeah. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. My head coach, Johnny, who's the director here, he asked me to come and speak because apparently I didn't know that Matt said something. And I was like, oh, come on, I don't want to follow an NDSU coach that coaches high jump. And he said, but I have a focus for you. I want you to focus on the high jumpers in the high school level in Minnesota, because there's some unique conditions that we have to deal with. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I hope today you have a few takeaways. Maybe there's something you can bring back for this upcoming season. And so I kind of sprinkled in there a little bit of the basics along with some ideas for drills. Because you have your athletes that are looking at you the first day of practice, and you're like, what am I going to do with all these people? So hopefully that's where I already mentioned your name. I hope you get some takeaways. So this is kind of where I'm going to go today, but a lot of it depends on you, because I have experience, but I have experience limited. But everybody here has so many other ideas and drills and things that you've tried. And I told Coach Jay that the only way I would do this is if I wasn't up here alone. So all of you are up here as well. So if you have drills that you've tried, issues that you're like, I cannot get this jumper to hips up. I can't get them to drive their knee. Their approach is always flat on the curve. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, maybe today we can help solve that. So that's my hope for today as well, to hear from you in a collaborative way so we can get done really fast to get to happy hour, or hopefully, all of you, we can share with each other and we can collaborate. So I'm hoping it's going to be a collaboration. So that's what I wanted to focus on for today, and that's kind of where we're going to go. So you have these wonderful athletes staring at you the first day, and you just want to have fun. That's my goal. I'm like, let's have fun, because this group of people that you're working with, they want to be there. It's not like when I'm teaching 7th grade life science. Not all of them want to be there, right? But my high jumpers, they want to be there. And so you got this great group of people that you're working with, and you just want to nurture that and have some fun. And so that's what we try to do in practice. The last couple of years, my two head coaches, they gifted me with this opportunity of, we're going to let you be only the high jump coach. I was like, it's a dream come true. Because before that, we coached multiple events, right? I coached hurdles. As soon as I leave to go watch my starts, my 100, right? I come back, they're like, I'm out. I'm like, what? It's like within, 1 minute, they're all done jumping. And so I have the great opportunity to be able to be there with my high jumpers the whole time. But before we get into this, how many of you, this is your first time ever coaching high jump? They said, you're coaching high jump. Yes, you're gonna love it. How many of you are like, first 5 years? It's been about 5 years. Awesome. So you got some great ideas. You've seen a lot of good things. How about our 6 years plus? Awesome. Also amazing, great resources for us to tap into today. So, so these are some of my jumpers. This is one of my jumpers here on the bottom. This is Avery. She's 5'2", but she jumped 5'4", and she's such a powerful jumper that's like I never like to discount anybody that wants to try high jump. I've had great discus throwers. I have had amazing 800 runners. You're like, you're not high jump it, but they want to and they're excited about it. And if they want to go over backwards over a bar, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And so I take everybody. So I've been pleasantly surprised, but of course, I love the tall, lanky, flexible gymnasts and divers, and I love those athletes as well. This year when we went to state, my high jumper that went to state, it was her first year ever doing high jump. She was a gymnast. She's a 10th grader. And she comes in and I'm like, oh, wow, got my attention. And so I worked with her this last season, and so we had a trip to state, and it was so exciting to see her. She was so excited too to be there, and so that's my favorite part, is to see the excitement. So all this different stuff that many of you do as well. We set lots of goals. I mentioned the Jump for Gum. It's a big motivator. And I do lots of videotaping. I'm always up there with my cookie sheet, filming. So I think there's a lot of value in that, and talking to them later and taking a look at how they're doing. So challenges in Minnesota. We've got 12 weeks. Last year we were inside for 4 weeks, and then we got outside and it was like 80, right? And you're like, oh, if only I was having a meet today, because it was a beautiful day, right? And here we're in practice, which is great too. But so is it really? You never know what you're going to get in Minnesota. So I was trying to put together some things that I do when we're kind of trapped inside. The biggest thing for me is to be creative, to look around at your facilities. We are fortunate that we have a gymnastics center that's a little ways away from the high school, and so I can sneak them in there a couple times a week during indoor. I just take one mat, 5-gallon tubs of cement, put a dowel in it. We have 2 standards. I use the bungee cord. Even one mat, I can just do some basic work, and we do it on the gymnastics floor. It's really fun. It's just super bouncy. And so that's where we kind of do our beginning. If you have a facility where you can get indoors, I hope you know how lucky you are, because how amazing. The pool, to do workouts in the pool, that would be fabulous, especially, we don't want injury, to early on. That always worries me when we're in the halls, when we're doing stair workouts. Their legs, that always concerns me. So being in the pool would be fabulous. We do a lot of work I do work with the other jumps coaches. So we'll take our pole vault coach, our long triple, and we'll do indoor workouts together while we do circuits, or we send the jumpers around to do circuits. So we do some of that at the beginning of the year. I've done med balls, the rubber bands, mini hurdles. We do plyometrics. Indoor drills, even if you have the gym. I have done layups. Layups are great for the one-legged takeoff or the knee drive. We've done that half circle. I've done serpentine runs where you put the cones out and they go back and forth for ankle mobility. We do some of that in the beginning of the year. I tried to put in as many resources as I could for you, just if any of that kind of sparks any ideas for you to go, oh yeah, I can do that. We have a staircase in the high school, and I can do that. So hopefully, if you look at my presentation, you have some ideas for yourself also. What are some other things that you do? Anybody else? Indoors is hard. It gets,
A lot of form drills
okay,
that don't require you to jump, like
Yep.
simulating what you feel like in the air, but you're on a mat.
yes, and I get into the wrestling room too. We get in there, it's easier on the shins, so the wrestling room also is a good spot. there's a game that my jumpers love, and I really don't know why, but they really like it. I call it Hunger Games, and so it's after our workout, they're like, we just wanna play, wanna have fun, and so I take this one of the small cones, those orange cones, and that's the it. If you have that, you're it. And so they take it and they count backwards by 5, and the rest of the team scatters down all the hallways, because we're in the high school. And so they play tag. And it's the quick, fast burst of energy, and afterwards they're like, oh my gosh, that was awesome, and I'm so tired, and I'm like, yes. And if they haven't gotten tagged yet, then they get to sit. Everybody else has to do push-ups or sit-ups. So usually we do some kind of a fun thing with it. And they've gotten really, really good at it. They'll take the cone and put it behind their shirt, and they'll be walking around like, and then pull it out for the freshmen. And so it's we like to have some fun. So any like little tag games, anything different during the season too, we like to switch into something a little different, so it's not always the same monotonous thing. So I like to be creative and do some fun things with my athletes. Anybody else? Ideas that they do inside?
I have rubber chickens, and so we call them chicken runs.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Kind of the same thing as your tag thing. We call them 5x1, so we make 4 locations, and so
Okay.
the first and fifth runner at the same spot, and second and third. And as you run, you got to give the chicken to the next person, and they go. And
Yes.
we change up in the school what they have to do. If they're going to do a fly when they get it,
Oh,
or
sure.
if it's just for
Yep.
more non-speed and just more conditioning more. Maybe it's a 100-meter just running at 70% or something like that. So.
Yeah,
But
fun.
chicken runs they just get nuts when we do chicken runs.
Yep.
Just a rubber chicken instead of a baton.
It doesn't take much sometimes. Yeah. Also we do fun runs or fun relays also. They gotta do different things back and forth, fun relays. End of the day, fun stuff like that too.
Just a change of focus, instead of having them jump over a bungee, I work on getting vertical, so I'll stack the pits up.
Okay.
And just have them go and see if they can get their butt up, if they can get on top of the mats.
Yep.
Versus just trying to lay out all the time, just to really accentuate getting the hips high, getting as much pop as you can. Cause you gotta be that first one that can actually get on top of the pits.
Yeah, I
So-
tried that too. That's fun. And in the gymnastics room too, I take a pit. It's called a bonsai drill. I didn't know it had a name, but I make up some of these things, and later I find out somebody else already did it. I'm like, well, rats! I could have, taken that and used that. But anyways, I take a mat, put it up on end, and then I'm trying to get them to go up, because a lot of times they want to go right over, especially for my new jumpers. They want to throw their hips or their shoulders right over the bar. And so we'll jump up and go right up to the mat to see how high they can get. And so it's a straight up and down motion, kind of like doing a layup, or when we're outside, I try and see how high they can get with the goal post. So just trying to get them to go straight up, something different, for them to think a little differently. So that sounds fun. Anybody else?
I mean, that's whole team thing, but the last couple of seasons we go into the pool on Fridays, so do some type of strength, like circuit or something, and then we will go into the pool and do a lot of drills there, so we know we're not overloading them, and it's worked out very well for us.
How fun. That sounds like a lot of fun. So you have a pool in your district then?
In the high school, yeah.
Okay, nice.
So, yeah, we go there, and the pool
Okay.
vaulters do their own thing, and then everybody else,
Yeah.
we have them doing all types of, hip mobility, and then cycling, and then, all these type of things, but in the water. So we know
Yeah.
one day at least a week, we're not
Yep.
hitting
Pounding,
hard.
yep.
So, yeah.
Excellent, that's a great idea. We have a pool in New Prague, but it's always occupied. There's always like club and swimming, and so it's hard to get in, but man, if you can get in there, that's a great idea.
I think the activities for indoor depend on how many of the gyms we get.
For sure.
'Cause like, full courts, I think there's 3 of them, and then there's the wrestling room. And if baseball's got 2 of them,
Yep.
it severely limits what we can do, but if we get all of them, and we try and work that out with baseball, like, hey, do you wanna go early today or late, and have that planned out, so
Yeah.
We have all the gyms, we have the stuff you can roll out and you can wear your spikes on it, you can practice running and all the
Nice,
things you need to do.
nice.
But you can't do that without the space.
Yeah, I mean, with our spring sports, sometimes any little hallway, you find runners in it, and, I'll try and find a little quiet spot to do we'll do some yoga or some mobility or stretching or visualization. It's chaotic in the spring, so, and I think they're adding another sport. Aren't they adding
Boys
volleyball?
Boys volleyball.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, bring it on, let's share some more. Yeah, so it always makes spring sports interesting, right? Yeah. Anybody else? Anything you do inside?
I would be curious on how you keep your kids healthy. When we have these long periods of indoor stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like I always have, that fun game, and somebody always seems to get hurt in some way,
They go hard.
They do, and dodgeball even, is kind of
Yeah.
dangerous for some of my kids, but.
Well, that definitely is a consideration, yeah, and I haven't had injury when we play tag, but sometimes I call them in more often, we stop and pause and say a few things, and we get it going again, so it isn't as intense, but does anybody else, any other ideas?
One other thing that we've done is because we'll do it really late and like early, like 6 in the morning early, and we'll have our varsity runners come in then and do their workouts, and then maybe the junior high are doing workout in the afternoon while varsity is doing more event work.
Okay,
Even though it's still indoors, we can share the space and be able to do that, otherwise you've got 180, you've got 200 kids
yep,
in a gym, and it's, again, too chaotic.
yeah,
But then you'd have to have people that are willing
be flexible.
to have practice from, 6 to 7:30 in the morning and then again after school.
Yep. Yeah. Well, for everybody that shares, thank you. Sharing is not always easy. So I was just gonna go through, for some of our newer coaches, some of the phases that, I work on with my athletes. And then also, I have my resources are kind of plugged in here, different websites I use, the drills I found, helpful instruction, so I put that in there as well. These are the things that I talk about beginning of the season with my athletes. I tend to be a 10-step coach. I do change it up a little bit depending on if their legs aren't strong enough, if they lack the speed, I'll make it longer or shorter, but I try to do a 10-step approach. 5 on the straightaway, and then I do 5 on the curve. And we all start in the same spot, and we adjust a little shorter, a little longer. I'll adjust as those first few weeks go on. And then, of course, when you have your first couple meets, I've even noticed that their indoor marks even change when they get to outdoor. So sometimes that'll change. Once you have a set approach, then consistency all the time, working on that same rhythm. We work on rhythm for my athletes too. So we'll do a lot of approach drills. I really focus on the curve. I know that some of the other speakers that we talked to today, I think the first speaker, Andy had mentioned that he likes to do not only, but he likes to do mostly full approaches. And I had to think about that because I do a lot of the shorter approaches, but he works also with collegiate and Olympic athletes. And so, a lot of it comes down to what you're comfortable with too. I do a lot of curve work, and then we do the full approaches. I do that kind of sparingly because it gets their legs really tired, but consistency is super important as well. And then we'll talk about some of the drills and stuff too. Here's some of my drills that I use. I like 5-3-1 steps, that's curve work. Rhythm drills, I always tell them, I said, I know you love high jump, and I know it's your favorite event. It's okay, you don't have to tell me. And so the rhythm that we're looking for is, we all love high jump. We all love high jump. So we say it all the time, especially in the beginning. We all love high jump. I'm trying to work on that short, quick, their gather, penultimate step. So from the beginning, we work on this rhythm. And then we do full approaches. I have them count. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we go into curve. Curve 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, curve, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm trying to get them to start gradual, get a little bit faster, and then those last two steps are bam, bam. And so we work on the rhythm as we do that also. When I do approaches, I don't like it when my athletes come, let's say this is the pit right here, and they come and jump, and then they pop up, and they come down, and they keep going, they keep walking off. I always feel like that's really hard on your shins and your ankles, so I have them run, pop up, and then run across the mat. I feel like that's better for them, and also I get a better look to see where their takeoff spot is. I also don't like it when my athletes jump a real bar before the meet. Maybe that's just me, but I always take the bar down. I always want them just to pop up, run through. I'm like, right on, go warm up. So that's all I do. I don't like to do a lot of jumps before meets. I know some athletes need that. They need to know they can make it, so I understand, but we just do one pop-up. You look fabulous, and then we do warm-ups in the mat, and I'll show you the warm-ups just a little bit. We do visualization. I have them lay down, visualize. I have them walk through it, visualize it. We look for cues on the mat, the standard, to help them as they go through with that as well. There's my resources. So, common errors. These are the things I see, and maybe you see different things with your athletes. I try to think of things that I see, and then some of the drills that I do to help them to better understand the approach. And it's difficult, right, to be spatial, especially when some of them aren't used to it. That's why we love our gymnasts and our divers. They have such a great spatial awareness, but if they don't have that background, trying to teach them that sometimes can be tricky. So stepping out on the curve, I see that one a lot, especially with my new jumpers. I check their curve, I put chalk down, I have them a focal point to look at, to look straight and then curve. I call it the bubble. I was like, there's no bubbles here. We're not blowing bubbles, there's no bubbles, we're no bubble on our curve. It's like curve is critical. And so no stepping out, no cutting in. Sometimes they cut in like they're a football player or something. And I'm like, we don't cut, we don't bubble, it's a beautiful thing. And so we talk about how wonderful the curve is. And lots of circle drills. I do skipping drills, high knee up and circle drills. The other day we were running around the flagpole because it was the only round circle thing I could find outside. So being creative, trying to find things that it's a little different, but yet it's still working on that lean, especially in the ankles. So we work on that ankle strength too. I put cones out sometimes because some of them want to cut in, and I'm like, don't cut in on this curve. Or I'll put a hurdle right here. And they're like, you're gonna make us jump over this hurdle before we go into the pit? And I'm like, no, it's just, I want you to, it's a visual, right? Go around that hurdle, don't cut into the hurdle. And so I'll put different things around so that they have something visually to look at. Too slow on the approach, I'll do rhythm runs, accelerations, I'll do things like that. So I did find these from one of the other previous clinics that I was at, and I found these documents really helpful. So if there's more corrections on here, if you want to check those out. And I found them helpful for some of my jumpers as well. Anybody have anything to add? Any jumper that's doing anything you're stumped with for the approach?
No, my best jumper, I feel like she's kind of tight in the approach, and then it was my first year coaching her, so she's pretty good. So, but it's like you gotta back up a little bit, let go, use your legs. She's 6'2", and she couldn't. It's like I want her to feel comfortable with the rhythm. I think we were missing some rhythm there because she could just accelerate and go too fast where she could lose control. She didn't have enough room to really develop her speed. That was my feeling, and I wasn't sure about to adding more steps yet. So that was kind of my fight last year.
Right. and a lot of the different, resources that I gave you too, they talk about, beginning high jump, you know, what should you start with, 8, 10, 12, and a lot of times it's your jumper, how much speed they have. Sometimes if they go up to the high jump bar and they whip around super fast, it's almost like they're out of control, right? And then sometimes I'll help them make their curve a little wider to see if that helps, if they can still keep the speed up on a wider curve. So I'll do that with the athletes sometimes. I have my new jumper right now. And I'll talk about it when we get to bar clearance. She'll start super close to the closest high jump standard, and she jumps really far along the bar, and she lands really close to the front of the pit. And I've tried moving her this way, that way, back foot up, and she always goes to the same spot. She'll adjust her steps so that she jumps in the same spot. And I'm stuck, so that's why all of you are gonna help me today. So I was like, I'm working on that with her. And she has super long strides, and she's really tall, and she's lanky, and so it's hard because I don't wanna change her running style, right? I mean, how do you do that? So I'm trying to work with her and her body and find a way that fits, but isn't it true though, it's almost like you gotta tweak it a little different for everybody. Every athlete's working on something a little bit different. So at meets, I'll take notes like, too close, too far, and then my next practice, I will find drills that address these issues. And so that's kind of, every year is different, because you work on different things. And so, that's kind of how my season goes. Anybody else? Yeah.
So our best jumper is she's a natural athlete. She's a gymnast by trade, but she's such a feel athlete. Like, her starting spot is just where she decides to start from every time. And some days she's really on, and then she jumps really high. And some days, her takeoff point is, way too close to the bar. Sometimes it's too far outside. Like, when she's on, and when she's not, it's just not going to be that day for her. And she's been a little bit difficult to get
A consistent
a
takeoff.
consistent takeoff, just because she kind of just doesn't want that structure. She wants to be a little bit more feel and a little more free.
How does she find this magical spot? Does she like
She
run from the bar?
we have she does a little bit of measuring, and she has a spot on the track, but then
Okay.
where she is in a 6-foot radius around
Okay.
that spot on any given jump is anybody's guess.
Well, I think it's good that she has her spot that she can go back to if
Mhm.
all else fails.
Mhm.
I mean, so that's a good
But then
thing.
she'll not. Like, I know we
Oh,
were at an
gotcha.
indoor meet in Bemidji last year, and she had 3 straight jumps at her, like, whatever it was, 4.8, and she's a 5.4 high jumper. And she took off and was like, her foot was hitting the pit on the way up. Like, her
Right.
takeoff leg was dragging along the
Yep.
inside of the pit. And we were, trying to talk to her about it, and that was 3 jumps, and we were done. So that day just wasn't her day. But then there's other
isn't
days
that-
where,
Yeah, and I think that's true for high jumpers too. Well, high schoolers, if they don't want to be there that day, it's like they self-sabotage. They're like, I don't want to be here, And you're like, oh my gosh, I was counting on you. You're my 5-foot jumper, right? Right. So I get it, but that's frustrating. Yes.
So maybe 20 years ago, there was an area coach that had a 5'6" girl high jumper and was really proud of her. In fact, obnoxiously proud about her. And what he didn't know is she was a 5'10", and it was a disservice to her. If your girl's is a 5'4" with inconsistent approach, you need to get her consistent approach.
yeah,
That's what you got to do.
that's why I'm here.
Or make her a hurdler.
Well, that's also we're
I
doing
mean,
that this year too.
she's got to have a consistent approach. There's no,
Yeah.
you got to figure that out.
Yeah,
There's just no,
yeah.
nothing.
And what I do is I put marks down or cones that I had mentioned.
Mhm.
There's a no-go zone, we don't go there. Work on the consistency, the rhythm. I have them, I say it out loud when they jump, and then to help them to kind of work on the rhythm and the speed of the jump.
I think the biggest the biggest benefit that we have going into this year is she's a junior now and is a little bit more serious.
Experience.
She's tasted a lot of success and now has some interest from
Yep.
programs, and now she wants to
Yeah.
do it. But
Well, that's good.
it's just been interesting to
The buy-in is huge.
Yeah. You know, you don't wanna like hamstring them so much into drills and whatever. You wanna allow an athlete to be an athlete in
For sure.
some ways, but obviously it needs to be more consistent than what we've had thus far.
Yep.
So.
I would say too, just, cause I coach volleyball as well, but just brutal honesty about where they're at.
Yeah.
Like, the reason that you are not jumping is because you refuse to use steps, you know? And when you use your steps, you go higher and you have that good feeling. But when you don't, we can show you on video that you are not using your steps and having a bad day. It is not because you are having it might be because you're having a bad day, you know, in your head. But it's also because you're choosing not to
Yep.
use what's proven to work. And in a nice way, telling them that, but because we all know when you have consistent steps, you jump better.
Correct.
I mean, if you use the correct form and have consistent, just do the things that you're supposed to do, and it goes better.
Yeah, I was telling my athletes a lot that, you know, I'm looking at your approach, because you coach the ground. It's hard once they've left the ground, it's hard to change. You know, the trajectory has already started, and so maybe tiny tweaks and hips or slight shifts, but otherwise it's really hard to do that, so. But does she like gum? You know, if you can find what she really likes, it's
She
like,
likes a lot of things, and I'm sure gums. one of them.
somebody that she really likes,
Yeah.
set him right there at the
There you
back of
go.
the high jump.
There you go.
Way better, so, yes.
One thing to the point of consistency that I've gotten better at in a lot of my coaching days, was helping them with that buy-in in the consistency of approach. And once they have steps, and it feels like that takes until almost conference to
I
feel
know,
confident in their
I
steps.
know.
But once they have their steps, I'll pull out the chalk and we'll do a full, approach day, and I mark, we do 9 steps, and I mark where their 4 is hitting, which should be straight down.
Yep.
And they're able to then see, I mean, it varies. So then we go to partner work, and even pulling it on the track to the rhythm points, starting with their approach, having a consistent starting point, and having a partner track where that more step is hitting. So I feel like the more consistent you are on your straightaway without the
Yep.
bubbles or
Sets you up for the curve.
yeah, that sets them up for more